Alright, so hi everyone. Thank you all so much for coming. Welcome to tonight's NAFI meeting. Because we have a lot of new faces here tonight, we have check-in links on both of these boards. If you guys could just go ahead and sign in so we know about how many people to expect at various meetings. We also have snacks on both of the back desks. Because there are a lot of you, we do ask that you limit yourself to one snack for tonight. But yeah, once again, thank you all so much for coming, and I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Tina Raymond.
I feel like there's a mix of jazz people and music ed people here, and you maybe don't know each other. So can we just go around real quick and say your name, your instrument, your specialty, and something interesting about what you're going to be for Halloween?
I'm Colin. I'm a music ed tuba player. I don't know what I'm going to be talking yet. Maybe
What were you the last time you dressed up?
I think I was a ghost. Honestly, I think I was a ghost.
Okay, great. Hello.
Can you introduce yourself?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, my name's Ivan. I play the viola. I'm a third-year performance major. For Halloween, I'm going to be type 1. I'm Daya. I'm a music ed. I play trombone, and then I have no idea what I'm going to be.
What were you the last time you dressed up?
I think I was in Cello and Motion.
Ah, nice.
Hi, I'm Shireen. I'm a voice major, a junior. I have no idea what I'll be for Halloween, but the last time I dressed up as a corpse bride.
Hi, my name's Avery. I'm a music ed major at CSUN. Was there another question besides the Halloween? Or was it just
I
Halloween?
think that's it.
I don't know what I'm gonna be for Halloween, but I know that my best friend and I are gonna do it.
Nice.
Hi, I'm Aiden. I'm a percussionist, senior here, and I'm blanking on his name right now, but I'm going to be Blank Adams.
No way.
Gomez!
No way.
Nice. Great.
I'm Sarah. I'm in the first semester of the credential program now, but I did study voice and flute, and I'm gonna be Morticia and Gomez.
Nice. Love it.
I'm Danny. I'm actually not a student I'm just doing a fellowship here at CSUN. So in a climate action.
Oh, cool.
So, but I do play guitar.
And Halloween?
I want to be Superman and I can be Crypto.
My name's Tori. I did do my undergrad in music ed, but now I'm doing my master's in percussion performance, classical percussion. And for Halloween, I don't know, actually. It's been so long since I last dressed up. I don't remember.
Do you have like a vision of you as like a kid in a costume?
One time I dressed up as like one of those can dancers and my dad was a cowboy and it was pretty cute.
That's cute.
Yeah.
Alright, I'm Wyman. I'm a music ed major. I play oboe and famously nothing else ever. And I don't know about this year, but last year for Halloween I was Maple Pines.
Nice. Cool.
I'm Larry. I'm a music education major. I play bassoon. And last year I matched with my girlfriend as Mung Dal and Truffles from Chowder.
Nice.
I'm Liam. I'm a flute media comp major. And I don't know what I'm going to be, but last year I was the man with no name.
Okay.
Goodbye movie.
Nice.
Oh yeah.
That's good.
I'm Danny. I am a freshman music ed major. I play tenor saxophone mostly. For the past 2 Halloweens, I've been Garfield. I'll also be Garfield.
Great. Love it.
I'm Matthew. I'm a freshman music education major. I play trombone, and I think for this Halloween, I'm going to be a penguin.
Good.
I'm Alex. I'm a jazz studies trumpet player. I don't know what I'm going to be, but I'm going to go to a John Carpenter concert on Halloween.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. You're not gonna come to the same first. That's fine. Yeah, I got it.
Hi, I'm Justin. I play mallet percussion mainly. I'm a music ed major. I'm also going to be Gomez Adams.
Nice.
I'm Daphne. I'm a music ed major with the jazz saxophone focus.
give away the bag for what I'm gonna do this year. Also, I don't know yet, but last year I was a shrimp.
Best Halloween costume I've ever seen.
It was good.
It was so good. Just
I
like
was
a
a
shrimp
shrimp.
playing the saxophone, it was amazing.
No, I was a shrimp.
Let's go back to Saleya.
My name's Saleya, I'm a freshman and I play the drums and I'm a jazz studies major. And I don't know if it'll be this year, but last year I was matching with my boyfriend as Raymond and Beast Boy.
Well done.
I'm Tamaya, I'm a jazz studies major, I play trumpet, and I am gonna be Tigger from Winnie the Pooh for the third year in a row.
I'm Jack. I'm a music education major. I play euphonium, and I have a Bucky's onesie that I'm gonna wear.
Nice.
I'm Winston. I'm a music ed major. And I play trombone, and I don't know what I'm gonna be. But last year I was Linguini from Ratatouille. My girlfriend was the rat.
My name is Paul. I am a media comp major, and I don't really dress up for Halloween, but last time I did Howl from Halloween Castle.
I am Sochi, pianist, media comp major. Last Halloween, me and my boyfriend made Spider-Man masks, and that was pretty fun.
I'm Felix, a music ed major. I play flute and saxophone, and what I will be for Halloween this year depends on the B-band saxophone section because we're gonna do a uniform thing for the concert at the Mint on the 26th, which everybody should go to.
Hello, my name is Carlos Hernandez. I'm a jazz studies major. I play trombone, and I'm gonna dress up as my work uniform from Mint out, so really easy.
Sufficient.
My name is Hunter. I'm a jazz studies major in guitar. I don't know what I'm gonna be, but last year I was Charmin from the Bear.
Hi, my name is Ian. I'm just sitting in on this workshop. I study jazz and play drum set. Last year I was a pirate with a parrot on my shoulder. That was during adoption.
My name is Nicholas Ortiz. I'm a jazz studies major, and then I'm also in the B-band sax section, so I'm not sure if we're gonna be it.
I'm trying to get us to go as the Mystery Inc. gang, because there's 5 of us.
I have this dream in my mind that someday I will convince the entire music faculty to all go as Beethoven. Because like every teacher is Beethoven. It's very funny. And we have another one who came in. Who are you?
I'm Kaylee. I play horn. I'm a music ed major.
What are you gonna be for Halloween?
Oh, I have no idea.
What were you last time?
That you dressed up.
I was like, I just threw a cowboy hat on, to be honest, and that was kind of a good fix. Easy.
Cool. I'm Tina. I was a jazz studies major once upon a time. Now I teach jazz studies majors. I play drums. And I am going, so I got my little French bulldog a Stegosaurus costume, so he's gonna be a dinosaur, and I'm the lady doctor from Jurassic Park 1. I forgot her name, that's what we're doing. Little match her. And we got one more. Please introduce yourself, your major, and what you're gonna be for Halloween, or if you don't know yet, what you were the last time you dressed up.
My name is Brando. I'm jazz studies. I think I wear Luigi.
Oh, nice. So there's a mix of objectives for this presentation. I'll try to cover all facets of what our needs are. My music ed folks, you are like, how do I direct a big band and how do I teach a drum set player how to do these things and what even does that entail? I'm assuming, yes?
Yes.
My jazz studies majors, you're all like, how do I write for the drums? That's a terrible thing to do. Or maybe you play drums and you're like, these charts are whack. I don't know how to navigate these weird things, these slashes and rhythms. So hopefully we'll cover all of those things in the next, 50 minutes? Yeah. Big Band Drumming 101 with me.
Yeah.
So here's a little bit of background. I for the past 15, 20 years, I've done lots of clinician work at various jazz festivals around the state, around the country. And there's some common pitfalls that I see both with young drummers, but also with music educators working with young drummers. They don't understand how much control they have over the band. They play more like they're in a section, like a percussion section, where you have your part and you read your music and you do your thing, but no one really needs to rely on you because there's a conductor. The same is true for a bass player to big band, where they don't realize how deeply integral they are to the success of the whole ensemble. A lot of band directors end up encouraging their drummers to listen and not read the music, which is so rude. I have never in my life as a professional drummer been asked to sub with a big band and not read chart after chart after chart after chart. Massive disservice to your students. That we don't teach them how to read the drum parts, because it is weird and it takes some getting used to, I will explain. But the process of reading a drum chart is not just you read what's on the page and you're successful. It doesn't work that way. That they learn how to play ensemble figures, that they learn to read the rhythms that are on the page, but that's not really what we're supposed to do when we're reading big band charts. Again, I'll explain shortly. That they don't feather the bass drum, which is lightly tap the bass drum on a quarter note pulse with the acoustic bass player on swing tunes when they absolutely should. The reason directors tell their drummers not to do this is because they usually do it too loud, and also because most of your bass drums at the school you'll be teaching at are like 22 inches. They're massive when they should be smaller. They should be 18 or 20 inches, harder to control. And that they're not always aware of the historical context of the charts they're playing. That they're playing a Count Basie song, which is an older swing style, but they're trying to play like Buddy Rich on that chart, and it doesn't make sense. It would be like playing Brahms with a Stravinsky attitude. Like it's too far apart. It doesn't make sense. With me so far?
Yes.
If anything is like, I have no idea what you're talking about, raise your hand and ask. You are probably not alone. So hopefully by the end of this, we'll have some solutions for when you have a big band and you can tell that your drummer and your bass player aren't playing like they realize they're actually the conductors. Some exercises for your young drummers to develop coordination to play some fundamental styles. So much of being a drum set player is actually doing the physical coordination of playing the grooves. Intellectually, your drummer will sometimes understand what you're asking them to do, but their left leg will not listen to them. Right? Brain synapses, different parts of your body that don't like react in the same way. I'm sure that's probably similar on your instrument where you're like, move pinky, and then it doesn't. Clarity on why it's important for drummers to continue to read the music and not have it memorized. Exercises to help your young drummer read and develop coordination for all the rhythms they're going to see. I'm sure you know this as well, that sight reading is actually a misnomer. It's sight remembering. At a certain point, you've seen all these rhythms before, and your brain remembers what they are in the same way that you're not sounding out every word that you read in a book. You've seen that word before you recognize it, it comes back to you. So similarly, training your drummer to have that sight remembrance. And what else? Ensemble figures, suggested gear so that you can get rid of those 22-inch bass drums that the predecessor of your program purchased because it was cheap. And some suggested listening for you and your drummers to kind of get your ear around the music. I think that this is true with all music, but especially with jazz because of how it's notated and how much is left up to discretion. You have to listen to the music, and you have to listen to the music with your students in order for them to even have a clue about how they're supposed to function in it, especially from the drum. So the drummer is the sonic conductor. You will experience this when your drummer starts to rush and the whole band goes with them and you're waving your arms frantically trying to get your band to watch you, and they're not. And in the best case scenario, you count off a band, and for most of the charts they're playing middle school, high school level, there's no mixed meter, there's no crazy things. You count them in, you walk away, you don't do a conducting pattern. They got it. You walk up and you cue some entrances and exits, you maybe cue last time for some things. but you're not doing a conducting pattern in front of them unless there's a bunch of mixed meter. They got it. And so the process then is the band is listening back to the bass and drums to be the sonic expression of the collective experience of the time for the ensemble. So that means that the drummer and the bass player need to play like they know that it's their band. And even just telling your bass and drums, you're in charge, helps the drummer and the bass player play with the kind of conviction and confidence that they need to command the time for 22 other people. That's everything I said, right? And with that, especially with young drummers, getting your limbs to coordinate in time is very difficult. So giving them some exercise books, a lot of them kind of start with rock patterns just because you're trying to get your limbs to fire at the same time. So Funky Primer by Charles Dowd, he used to teach up at University of Oregon, that's a good one. Basic Jazz Concepts, the Jim Chapin Advanced Techniques for a Modern Jazz Drummer. Syncopation is a book of just rhythms and rhythms and rhythms, and this is actually a great book to just print pages out and give to all of your students and have them A, practice the eighth note and quarter note rhythms, and then B, practice them in a swing style, because the way they're written with just quarter notes and eighth note rests and quarter rests to create rhythms is very similar to sometimes how jazz is written. There's a lot less dotted rhythms generally, right? Is that fair? In the notation practice?
Yeah.
So that's a great book to kind of get everybody on the same page about how to practice swing rhythms. The kind of benchmark for resource for jazz drumming is the Art of Bop Drumming, bebop drumming. That kind of starts you in the middle of the history, but really gets all the limbs firing together and gives you a really good history and background about the drums. So just having that book on a shelf that you can be like, read this page about the ride cymbal. Copy this page about comping exercises so that you get some coordination with your left hand in relationship to the ride pattern. And you can also, of course, develop short exercises for coordination that arise in the chart. You have this big hit on beat 2 in this big band chart. We're gonna play these warm-ups where the rest of the band is playing scales. Every other bar, you're gonna do a big hit on beat 2 while we do these scales. So incorporating it into the warm-ups. And then if you end up in a situation where your drummer isn't able to do the groove or the exercise you've put in front of them, helping them limit their body to like, just play your hi-hat, just play your right hand. Now add the snare drum, now add your left hand. Now add your right foot, add your other limb, and then put it all together. Does that make sense? Because it's the limb coordination. You'll see. So here are some examples of some of the exercises you would see in Funky Primer. Let's try some of these together. We'll start down here. The X, and this is relatively standard, but again, once you get to the big band charts, you may or may not see these specific markings. The X on the top usually means a symbol of some kind, and then usually the first line, or the first space, that would be a tom. The second, like C, if we were in treble clef, that would be snare drum. And then a lower one will be a tom, and then below that bass drum. And then an X on the bottom would be a hi-hat. So for this, we've got an X on top that's gonna be our right hand, like we're playing a cymbal. In our case, we're gonna pretend it's a hi-hat. So cross your right hand over to your left leg. Then the note right below it, we're pretend that's snare drum. You're gonna play your left hand also on your left leg. Your left leg is gonna be really mad at you. So let's try to just do this together, reading both lines at the same time. You're playing both hands at the same time for number 1. 1 and 2 and ready and go and. Right, 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 left, 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 the same time. Good. Let's go straight across to number 10. 1 and 2 and ready and go and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and right, left, right, both. Tap, tap, both. Right, left, right, both. Now let's go over to this side and we'll add the right foot. So right hand is the X, left hand is the higher note, your right foot will be the bottom note. We'll start with number 1. 1 and 2 and ready and go. Right foot, right foot, right foot, right foot, right hand, 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 left, left. Go down to number 4, 2 and ready and go and. Last time. Yeah, so already I see you like, oh, my right foot, not very bright, right? And it's brain synapses. It's building the relationship to your body. You intellectually understand what you're telling your body to do. It is not behaving. Let's try the top one, number 1, where we have even more syncopation with the bass drum, and you'll be so mad at your body. Here we go. 1 and 2 and ready and go and.
Oh.
For number 2, here we go. Yeah, your brain is like, which limb goes where? So I think just even like testing that for yourself, you have a little bit more grace for your students when you're like, do this, and they're like, I'm trying. It's their body doesn't know. So if you're handing out big band charts, or you're doing a chart with a band that's a little bit younger with a drummer that's less experienced, tell them the groove you want them to do a couple days in advance so that they can shed it and get their body ready to participate in what you're asking them to do. Like specifically, I would say funk grooves, Afro-Cuban grooves, those need a little bit more time. Fun story. When I was 13, I went to Blue Lake Fine Arts Camp. Anyone heard of Blue Lake? It's like a shorter, cheaper version of Interlochen. It's like a 2-week program in Michigan on the west side of the state. And my middle school didn't have a big band program, didn't have jazz, but I was taking drum set lessons and playing in like a local community big band that played for dances at retirement homes. So I was playing a lot of like Glenn Miller and very old school swing style charts. And so I was ready to go play jazz at summer camp with kids my age, and I was so excited. And I got there, and the very first chart that they pulled up was Chameleon, which is a funk chart. And I was not prepared to do that kind of coordination on the instrument. And like just 13-year-old Tina was just like crying on the drum set, trying to keep it together. So this advice is for 13-year-old Tina, who would have really appreciated the heads up on working on that coordination in advance of that. And here's similarly some jazz patterns. And what's nice about this book too is they take the stretched apart version of the symbol that has the X and the lower part that could be either the bass drum or the snare drum, depending on what you want to practice on. And then they put them right next to each other so you can see the composite of which ones are together and which ones are alone a little bit more clearly. It's just a nice kind of rhythmic exercise there. And this is what syncopation looks like. It's kind of pleasant too that they give you like the quarter note relationship on a lot of the pages. So here's all your syncopated rhythms, and here's how it lines up with the quarter note pulse. You could do this and just be like, the bottom line's the metronome. Or you could be like, drummers, play the bottom line with your bass drum and play the top with your hands. You could split it so that, you know, half the room is doing one line and half the room is doing the other. There's so many different ways to use this book, and there's so many different ways that drummers use this book, that you play groove whatever and then read the top line. Samba, Afro-Cuban, cha-cha, jazz, whatever. But there's pages and pages of rhythms that look like this, which is very common in terms of how jazz rhythms are written. I don't know why I'm going all the way over here. Oh, I know why. One chord is long, one is not. Okay, so style markings. When you hand out a big band chart, hopefully the composer arranger puts something at the top left that will tell your drummer what style to play on their chart. And my jazz arrangers and composers do this. Please put a style on your charts. Honestly, even your combo charts, because as a professional musician, I get stacks and stacks and stacks of music, and then I get recordings of stacks of music, and I go through on every chart and I write straight 8, swing, you know, like, and that's not even specified on a lot of professionals' charts. So just straight 8s, swing. If it's waltz, we'll figure it out. But if you want bembe, or if it's a samba or something, just put it. It will save your drummer a lot of time and energy. For my music ed folks, hopefully that's on there. If it's not, there's some ways to figure it out. Source recordings. If you look at the bass part, that can sometimes give it away. But hopefully it gives you at least some sort of groove marking, and then as a teacher, it's great for you to have a bank of patterns that are associated with all of these different groove markings, so that if a kid is like, I have no idea what a 12/8 Afro-Cuban groove is, you can be like, here, my friend, here's what it looks like, and here's what it sounds like. Vic Firth does a great job of making these big posters that have all the rudiments, and they have another one that has a whole bunch of different stylistic grooves. Just pop that on the back wall of your band room and you're good. You can also take a photocopy of it and make a black and white copy for your kids. I can also share this PowerPoint with you, and here are my versions of these things. So if the chart says swing, 4 feel, that means that the drummer is going to play with the acoustic bass player on the bass drum all 4 notes. That's happening on the bass drum super lightly. If it says to play in 2, the bass player is going ding, gong, 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 gong. It's the same tempo, but they're doing 1 and 3 rather than all 4 quarter notes per bar, and the bass drum should line up with that. Has anyone heard the term feathering the bass drum before? Does anyone know where it's from?
Pre-amplification, when the bass was amplified and the drummer did it to make the bass sound better.
It's to help project the attack, to help project the rhythm of the acoustic bass. This is where our young drummers get the wrong idea. They're playing it so loud that they get the full tone of the bass drum, which then covers the note of the bass. It's not the purpose. So your bass drum on your drum set should be matching, especially in a swing style, exactly what the bass player is doing, be it 4 quarter notes per bar or half notes per bar, but it should be so light that you just hear like the flick of the bass drum, you don't hear the whole tone of the drum. Rock, disco, funk groove, a Motown beat, a boogaloo, which is somewhere between it's like a swingy Latin groove. Shuffle, ballad time, brushes, these are all things that they're gonna come up. We just talked about feathering. And then when you get charts that just say Latin, and you will, because a lot of composers, arrangers, especially through 60s, 70s, when a lot of people were writing for Latin styles, but were not particularly educated on the different subgenres of Latin music to really be specific. You're gonna get ones that just say Latin. You're gonna get ones that mix Latin styles. It's a little bit of work on you as a conductor to go and look at the bass parts. and see if they're doing which would be more of a bossa nova or a samba or from the Brazilian elk, or if they're going which would imply Afro-Cuban mambo. And I know that I'm throwing lots of words at you. I would say one of the best resources you can get to decipher Afro-Cuban music is a book by Rebecca Maleon. No, it's like the history of salsa, or like a brief history of salsa. And she kind of breaks down all sorts of Afro-Cuban music and the history of it. It's a great book. And then it goes through in the back and has percussion samples on all the different groups. Brazilian music, I think if you know it's Brazilian, it's probably gonna be bossa nova or samba, which is in jazz language a little bit faster bossa nova. That's being way too basic, but it works, especially for middle school, high school, yes.
What was the name again?
Rebecca Maleon. It's not the 101 Montunos, it's like the history of salsa, or something like that is the name of the book. I have it in my office. I was carrying it around every day through the Arturo concert. It's a lot to know. I think more than anything, just use your ears to listen for conflicting rhythms. If there's a rhythm happening in the bass that's different than what's happening in the bass drum, then we know we've got conflicting styles. Those are two sounds to listen for in your band. And going to source recordings, a dead giveaway is if the title of the tune is in Portuguese, you're probably playing a Brazilian tune. If it's in Spanish, you're probably playing something from a culture that speaks Spanish, right? So listening to source recordings, and again, sometimes you're gonna get charts that say Latin and they're both at the same time, and then it's up to you to figure out how to just make your rhythm section groove and sound good together. Pick one. Here's a bunch of sample Latin grooves. So Brazilian, we've got a basic bossa nova. Bossa nova with a partido alto. And again, like, try one of these right now and you'll be like, oh shoot. But try just your hands. Go slower, right? Because that's what we do if we're teaching a kid. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then once you get the hands, take your left hand out, try just the right hand and the right foot. And then you piece it together. So you see the practice of how to teach a kid to move their limbs in time. 1 at a time, 2 at a time, then you get to 3. Song clave, 3, 2, 2, 3, rumba clave, 3, 2, 2, 3, cha-cha, mambo, basic, bembe, Afro-Cuban. And again, like, this is super reductive. This is like for big band. The more involved in the Afro-Cuban music you get, there's a lot more you can do. You can add a lot more percussion. But this will get your drummer through the Matt Harris chart from 1975 that says mambo. Questions about this? And again, you see, like, the layering of the rhythms. Like, we've got steady 8th notes for the bossa novas, right? It's more or less ding, digga-ding, 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 digga-ding for samba, which is basically a straight swing beat, so they probably have done that before. For the Afro-Cuban stuff, we've got cascara, we've got tumbao, we've got clave, we've got mimicking the rhythms of the congas. There's lots more layers and intricacies to child crying, right? So just be conscious of the coordination when you pick charts.
I have a question regarding some of the charts. Why,
Yeah.
There's, I see a symbol where it's like something around the.
That would be a cross stick. Yeah, yeah, and Some of this is codified and some of it they put a legend and then you figure it out. It depends on the books. And that's true with the charts too. Some of it is like, most of the time you see an X on a note up high, it's gonna be a symbol. You see an X down low with the stem going down, it's gonna be a hi-hat foot. Some of that's standard, but some of it's not. Sometimes they write slash notation, sometimes slash notation is just quarter notes, sometimes it's something else. Developing time, PA with a metronome, marching band style, works all the time. I still do it. Right, A-band? It works. Also having just headphones that have the metronome on your drummer or your bass player so they hear what the tendencies of the band are versus everybody being accountable for it. Because eventually when they are playing without the metronome, they do have to control the unwieldiness that is their peers when they get tired and excited and when they relax when it gets soft. Dynamics, can't stress enough that your dynamic range is truly based on the bass and drums. Again, they're the sonic conductor, so making sure that your drummers are really conscious of paying attention to the dynamics and over-exaggerating. When it says piano, go beyond piano so that the band is afraid that they can't hear you. And then similarly, when it gets loud, that you help support the band from underneath so that your lead trumpet player feels comfortable playing at a loud volume. Here's the other thing about middle school charts that drives me crazy. Usually the dynamic range is mezzo forte to forte. Right? So just be aware of that when you're handing out charts at the beginner level to like help them be like, we can do more than this. Let's cross out this mezzo piano or mezzo forte and make it a pianissimo so that your band has the range of a dynamic wind ensemble. There's no reason it shouldn't be the same in a jazz context. Reading! Make your drummers read. It's super important, even if it's weird. That being said, drum charts are pretty awful. How they should work, like the best drum charts should work like a conductor's condensed score. The drummer should be able to basically know everything that's going on in the chart, more or less, so that they can help the band play the overarching shape of the chart. That means they're going to see rhythms in the chart, not necessarily that they should play, but that other people in the band are playing. They should see sections that say sax soli or shout chorus, so that they know this is the moment I need to pay attention to this section of the band and make sure that they can hear solid time. Because what usually happens in a sax soli?
Right.
But if you're looking at a chart, how do you know it's a sax soli?
There's a lot of notes.
Lots of notes, lots of 16th notes, lots of rhythms, lots of stuff going on. So as the drummer, knowing like, okay, we've got a sax soli coming up here, I gotta simplify my time and make sure that they can hear exactly where the quarter note is so that they can all interpret the quarter note together so they can play all these damn rhythms together. Or if there's a shout chorus, what does that tell a drummer?
You can set up the figures or the...
You can set up the figures, or it's gonna be the peak, most exciting part of the whole chart, so I've energetically gotta save some space from everywhere else in the chart so that that moment is peak, right? Yes.
What's a shout?
A shout chorus is like the loudest part of the piece.
Okay.
It's like the band is literally like, ah! So there's different sections of a big band chart, generally, and they're not always in this order, but it's very common that there's maybe an intro, then the melody, and somehow the melody is arranged around the band. Then maybe there's like a little outro that leads into a solo section where a soloist solos on the chord changes of the tune. Usually they're related that way in a big band chart. Then after that, it might go into sax soli, which is like sax noodling together in harmony. And then that leads into a big shout chorus, which is a very exciting moment. And then either it goes out from there or it goes back to the melody and then ends. And that's kind of fundamentally the structure of a big band chart. And so a drummer should know, like, okay, we're in this moment of the chart. I'm conducting the band to do this in this moment. I'm not going to do that in this other moment because it's not appropriate for this thing. So oftentimes, your drummer will see a whole bunch of rhythms either in the staff or above the staff with slash notation underneath, like this. These are kind of the two most common ways rhythms are written on a drum set part. They mean different things. When they're written in the staff, they're ensemble figures, which means usually the whole band is playing these rhythms. They're super important. So in order to help the band play these rhythms together, it's not that you necessarily play just the rhythm. That's actually not helpful, because then in the moment, it's already gone. And if you just play the rhythm, you might cover up the note that the band has. So doing some sort of rhythmic idea in advance of that moment to help the band interpret where that time is together. That's what we're trying to do with these ensemble figures. We may also play the rhythm, but in order to not obscure what the band is doing, we have to be super conscious if it's a long articulation or a short articulation. And so my writers, when you're writing figures for drums, make sure that that's clear, that the length of the note is super clear, that you don't write a 16th note on beat 2 when the whole band is going, bow, right? Because if I see it's a long note, I'm gonna do long gushy sounds to match the ensemble. And if it's a short sound, I'm gonna do a short sound to match the articulations on it with the ensemble. And so the process for practicing these is, yeah, 1, learn how to play the damn rhythm. Ding, ding, ding. Ba, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Step 2, learn how to create the articulation that you want around the drums. So the first one has the tenuto. So I need to make a long sound. What's a long sound on the drum set?
Cymbals.
Cymbals, bass drum. You could even splash the hi-hats. Ding, ding, ding. Boom. Ding, ding, ding. Whatever, something long. If there's a staccato marking, what's a short sound?
Snare.
Snare drum, short hi-hat, something short. Yeah.
What if I want them to like roll? Do I have to like indicate like the roll?
If you're real specific about a roll, yeah, write a roll. But if you just want some sort of fill, you can just write the
Just
fill.
like fill and then
Yeah.
Okay.
But again, like how I'm gonna set up or how I'm gonna fill into a rhythm, knowing what the articulation is gonna be is gonna change the way I'm gonna do it. So being really clear about the articulations so that your drummer, because like if I'm gonna set something up that's long, I'm gonna do something short in advance to make that go long. And if it's a short high note that I'm targeting, I'm gonna do something low in advance so that it's like it's bouncing off of it. So knowing the articulation is really, really important. And again, all of these rhythms are so common in the jazz language. If they practice all these rhythms, by the time they're starting to look at the charts, it's not reading, it's remembering. Does that make sense? Questions about this?
Just a quick question.
Yeah.
Avocados.
Yeah, so there's lots of syllables that go along with these articulations, right? A staccato is a dit or a short. A marcato would be a dot, so it's slightly longer, and then long notes or tenutos are do, va, do, va, do, va, do. And a lot of times, if you have like a line of long notes, you leave them alone. Band doesn't need you to do that, but it's like these moments where there's rests, where there's time and space for the band to have different interpretations of the beat. That's where the drummer needs to be clear about 1, 3. Yeah.
How do you interpret held notes like longer than a quarter note? Like you have a half note up there. How do you interpret that?
How do you do that?
How do you interpret
Your computers do this, they just kick you off now. This never used to be a problem until this year. It's like there's one new IT guy who's like really eager. He's like, you will sign out every day.
All the IT department's having a huge problem right now. So.
And it's all your.
What's me? Sure.
It's alright, I got it. Hopefully it's matching what's going on in the horns. Hopefully the length of the note matches what's going on in the horns. And I may not necessarily hold it exactly the same length, as the horns, but again, it's the gesture of making sure that it's long. But if it's a ballad, and I really hear that the band is cutting off on beat 4, I might chug my cymbals, so that it is like, we're all together in this moment.
If the ensemble has like a fall or like a doit, do you write the fall or the doit in the drum part, or do you just give them like a long sound?
It's helpful. I mean, they're gonna hear it, but if you want them to like really gesture at that the right way the first time, put it. Because what way does a fall go? And what way does a doit go? I wanna know that. I don't wanna be going in a direction that conflicts with the line. I'm trying to help the line. So, yeah, that kind of information is great. Background symbols are when you see this. When there's slashes, that generally means play time. And this is what you're gonna see for so much of your drum charts. It's just slash, 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 play time forever. Which, by the way, if you're making drum parts, don't just put slashes. Oh my God, we zone out, we can't count on those slashes. Especially if you don't have even phrasing. Like if you have a tune that's 8-bar phrases and you have 6 bars on a line, how dare you? How dare you? So in this instance, these are almost like comping exercises where you're playing the time and then you're gesturing at these rhythms. And you may or may not be playing the whole rhythm. The band may not need you to do that. They may need you to catch just the last part of it, or to play something very subtle in advance of the rhythm to get them to do this. But it's not as dramatic as an ensemble figure because it's just in one section of the band. So background parts you would hear like in a solo section where there's a soloist and they maybe go through a portion of the form. And then another section of the tune has these written accompaniment parts that are quiet behind the soloist. That's called the background. And the drummer doesn't want to be cueing these the same would in a shout chorus or when the whole band is playing, but they do want to make sure that the band plays these rhythms together. And a couple tricks that my teacher who played with Stan Kenton and Woody Herman, John Von Olin, who's photographed here, amazing human, miss him deeply. Just some kind of general suggestions is that regardless of the length of the note, when you've got trombone cues, you always play them with the bass drum, because that kind of punctuation on their notes always sounds good. You don't have to play all the rhythms written, maybe just catch the last one in a phrase. You hear that a lot in Mel Lewis's playing. Mel Lewis is a drummer who I would recommend that you have all of your big band drummers listen to, because he is the most efficient drummer at playing just what's needed to get the band played together. If you give them Buddy Rich right away, they're gonna think they're the soloist on every song, right? So start them with someone who's like super musical and supportive in the band. And then if you play Channel 1 Suite, then go ahead and show them the recording with Buddy Rich. But, you know, baby steps. And then another suggestion from John Von Olin is whenever there's saxophone backgrounds, just leave them alone, they're fine, they got it. They got it.
That's just about the notation.
Yeah.
I noticed there are rests, and there's so many types of drum sets, so there's like snare and everything. Do I have to put rest? And like, I don't know how it works.
So, let me show, this is like what one drum part looks like. This is like a professional big band chart. This is what the drummer gets. It doesn't tell you what instrument to hit when. It won't. It says, again, this is what's going on in the piece. You know drum set better than I do, young drummer or young person, and like from perspective of the arranger, he's like, I know how to play the drums. I'm not gonna tell you what thing to hit when. You know how to do that better than I do. So here's what's going on in the piece, and you deduce how to make it work based on what you know about the style marking, which is swing, cool, right? And you have, which is, it's funny, but you know, he says up front, I want you to play brushes and I want you to solo. And here's some rhythms you should listen for. And then eventually, 2 sticks. And we've got these rhythms that are above the bar line, which again are indicating they're kind of background, they're part of the piece. And in this case, these quarter notes, the drummer's not gonna play quarter notes. That just means time. Similarly, a chart might just have slash notation, more like the beginning, for the whole piece. Does that make sense?
Yeah. It's interesting, cause
It's totally weird.
like,
Yeah.
So what about the rhythms written at the first line? Does that indicate the bass drum there?
First line.
Sorry, like at the bottom line of the staff, like on the
Yeah,
lines
like down here?
or- Yeah.
So this is what I love about Bill Holman and some arrangers. When you have sounds that are low in the band and rhythms that are low in the band, they put them low in the notation. And when you have sounds that are high in the band, you put them high in the notation. And then when you have ensemble figures, you put them in the middle of the staff. So this helps me as a drummer be like, oh, we've got some trombone shit. Great. Oh, trumpet stuff. Everybody there.
For leaving saxophone background figures alone,
Yeah.
is that due to activity or timbre of the instrument, or is that just a recommendation?
I think it's a little bit of all of it. Usually the texture of the saxophone backgrounds are super underneath. And the nature of saxophonists, they're kind of more together on their time anyway, they need less help. Trombones. But also, like, when you go to a sax soli section, they're playing so many notes, you don't wanna get in the way. So you might see rhythms written for them, but it's gonna obstruct the line of what they're doing. Yes.
So you talked about how the quarters are just pretty much flash marking, so how come you just didn't use flash marking in this case?
It's totally preference, it's not codified, and it's one writer to the next. And whatever program they were using, whatever copyist they were using, it just is, yes.
Do different arrangers have like, tell you what they mean by things, or are you just kind of guessing every time you see a new chart?
You're guessing. Some arrangers are consistent. Bill Holman's pretty consistent, especially because he had his publisher and his copyists, and it's pretty consistent. But even looking at like these Matt Harris charts from when he was writing in the 70s and 80s to what he's sent us a week ago, he's using different notation software. There's a lot of reasons that it's not the same. He had a publisher who was checking for continuity in the publishing company, and now he's just doing it on his own. So, yeah, it's a crapshoot.
So what I'm seeing is, there's no way to specifically tell a drummer exactly what you want in a part. If you wanna say, oh, play this drum at this time, exactly, there's no.
You can. I'm personally offended when I see it. Because those are the decisions that I have spent the last 20 years of reading charts like this, figuring out how to make those decisions. But sure, if you want like a big old tom roll at the beginning of your piece, by all means, like, you know?
But I mean, how would you, like, you just literally write it, say tom roll or something?
Yeah, or you'd put like a whole note with 3 slashes above it. That's how drummers know rolls, is you have a note with slashes either on the stem or above it, and you would put it in like the second space on the staff, and that would be a floor tom.
Yeah, it's just a different
level.
That's kind of standardized a little bit.
More or less,
That,
yeah.
like,
It's
where
like the
it
bass drum is down low, the snare drum is middle C, X is up higher, cymbals with sticks, X is below the staff are hi-hat. A cross stick is either an X on the snare line or the one with the circle. That's easy.
So there's ways to do specific things, but like it's a lot. From my seeing, it's a lot more up to interpretation than any.
It's
other
a lot
kind
more
of
interpretation,
big
and that is like that's the tradition of it. Now, what's also really frustrating about middle school and high school charts is now a lot of the publishers are insisting that the arrangers actually write out a groove or actually write out a drum set part. So you're gonna get these charts that have these styles written bar after bar after bar after bar after bar after bar, and your kid is gonna be like, oh my God, I've read all this shit. And then there's the rhythms above the staff and below the staff, and it's overwhelming for a kid to read all this stuff. Usually they put 2 drum set parts in the packet these days, one that has the groove written out and has like every fill notated, so that if you have a kid that has no idea, they can get through and it'll sound okay, reading note for note like a percussion piece. But again, eventually they do need to learn how to look at essentially a condensed conductor score and make the decisions in the moment on what to play when, so that the band plays the appropriate notes, rhythms, articulations, dynamics.
It's kind of like a transcribed solo in like a high school chart where.
Yeah, exactly, where they put the changes, but then they also write out a transcribed part. So it's like, you can play this thing that was on the recording and it'll sound okay, or you can make up your own solo, here's the changes, go at it. Yes.
I guess, this is more like a general question in like an ed setting, but I remember when I did like high school jazz band, my instructor, it was like my school system's like first year of jazz band was usually like at the high school level. It was one jazz band in the high school, so you'd get like all sorts of levels, and he would play like recordings of the standards sometimes to understand the style, which I thought was super helpful because I was on jazz guitar at the time, and then I went and threw myself on trombone last minute in community college, and well, that happened way less. I understandably why, but when it was like more complicated styles, like we do a bit more like modern kind of charts, sometimes we'd hear like a demo
Totally.
or something. How frequently would you say between like I guess like beginner band versus like a band with some experience, would you like have them listen to the chart before playing?
A-band listens to almost all the charts we do multiple times. Because there's so much that you get from the professional recordings that's not on the page.
Yeah.
And there's so much room for interpretation based on what's on the page and what you hear in the recordings. Especially, I think even at the collegiate level, like it's our responsibility to see what's on the page, hear the recordings, and understand how they went from this to that. And then when you're in your professional rehearsals, and it's original music, and then it's on you to make those decisions, but you remember, okay, well, I saw it this way, and there were these options, so why don't we try some of those? And then especially at like middle school, high school, again, like you cannot play this music without listening to it. If they play exactly what's on the page, it will not sound like that.
Now that I do like jog my memory a little bit, I think I do remember at community college level, my instructor did play a bit more than, let's say, like my high school instructor, but it was like not the first read through off every time. It was sometimes like after a couple of read throughs at least, just like alternating between those.
Yeah. And in a long rehearsal, sometimes I build in the listening as an opportunity to rest the brass chops.
Yeah,
or
that
if they're
I
like totally eating shit, I'm like, just listen.
That I really appreciated on high trombone.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, those like our rehearsal for A-band is 2 hours and 45 minutes.
Yeah.
And I tend to pick a lot of high brass stuff. Sorry. And so they need breaks, you know. And there's so much. I'm going to save them time ultimately in the rehearsal process if they hear it.
Yeah.
Right? And the other process too that we do a lot is clap the rhythms, make sure the rhythms are right, sing the rhythms so that we're singing the articulations, play each articulation short so that we make sure the front of the notes are right, and then having conversations about the ends of the notes and where they're supposed to be released, and then defining if it's a tongue release, which is common in a swing style, if they're stopping the air with their tongue, or if it's an air release, which is more like a ballad or more modern Breen Schneider-y chart. Having those conversations so that everyone is on the same page, in the same way that you would in a wind ensemble.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's a lot of stuff I like see in wind ensemble.
It is a lot of the same
kind of
stuff. Yeah, I think the most foreign aspect of a big band is the rhythm section.
Yeah.
So, did you have a question?
No.
Someone back there have a question?
Oh, I have one.
Yeah.
How does this relate to a bass part? What a bass part would look like, or is that you want to talk about that a bit?
I don't have slides on it, but bass parts for professionals will have changes, and then a lot of the ensemble rhythms. They don't usually get ensemble figures. They don't. That's not their domain. That's the drummer. But they'll have the ensemble figures. And if you have written lines, you want them to do the super specific. That's cool. They're more okay with you telling them what to do. For beginner parts, they'll often write out the entire bass line because bassists are not quite at the point where they're ready to construct their own bass lines. If you do have a student that is ready to start creating their own bass lines, take the piano part, take the changes, write them into the chart for the bass player so that they have the harmonic. And honestly, even if they're not ready, showing them that that's the information that they're gonna need to know to then create the bass lines that are written there is money. It's so important for them to know. So I would like for us to listen to how Mel Lewis interprets this page so that you can see what I'm talking about in terms of like, he's not playing everything. In fact, he's not playing most of this shit, but he's hearing it and he's seeing it as it goes by, and then he's playing just what needs to be played so that the band can play this information together. It's kind of shocking how much he ignores what's on this page. Not that he's ignoring it sonically, but that he's ignoring it physically. Like, yeah, that's happening, but I don't need to do it with them. They got it. Ready? Leaving it alone. The saxophones. The drummer what to play. It tells the drummer what the band is playing, and then it's up to the drummer to figure out what they need to do to help guarantee that the rest of the band will play those passages clearly with defined articulation, playing the rhythms in time together, playing the dynamics together. That's the responsibility of the drummer. Yeah?
Is this mostly for this style or any style that drummer figures in?
For the most part, in a drum set context, in a large ensemble, in a big band, yeah. I have played orchestral charts like the Chairman's Dances, or some pops stuff where they are more defined with different pieces of the drum set. But again, that's also the aesthetic of the composer, not so much the aesthetic of the musician. Because in jazz, like it's performer-centric, it's not as composer-centric for the most part. I mean, you get into Duke Ellington and crosses boundaries. But like in this context, yeah, it's up to the musician to decipher what's gonna make the band sound great. Yeah.
How does this change when it gets into like a Latin jazz context?
You would
Does
put a
it change
different style.
It just like if you're, what I'm trying to ask is like when you get auxiliary percussion involved, stuff like that.
You pray. You can assign different people instruments, or you can say, I want timbales, congas, bongo, etc. usually, hopefully, your percussionists have some relationship to that music where they know when to go from bongo to bongo bell. They know when to go from wawanko into something else, hopefully. If not, you can write some of it in, like if it goes to a chorus, write bongo bell, you know? Yeah.
And you would write like separate parts for those instruments, or would you just?
You could do a condensed percussion score where they're all on one and they're all reading the same one together. Yeah. That honestly, I think that is preferable because then you can see how all the different parts align, because the cascara part lines up very specifically with the clave, lines up very specifically with the congo part, lines up very specifically with the bongo part. And seeing all that together is very useful. Other questions?
Oh, yeah. Do you want to mention the lack of dynamics thing? Because I know that.
I did.
Did you?
Yeah.
Okay.
I did. Yeah. Yes.
Briefly, what got you into drum?
My sister told me to.
Ooh.
I was 11 and I had braces and she played the flute and I was like, I want to play French horn. And she's like, don't do that. And we both grew up taking ballet and being dancers, and she's like, I think you'd like drums. I think the coordination for drums is kind of similar to dancing, and she was 100% right. And she is now a music educator in Phoenix, Arizona, teaching beginning band. So, yeah. Kelly Raymond. She's got like a keytar and does like beginning band stuff with like backing tracks and guitars and getting your kids to play. It's so amazing. Posture pineapple, is that a thing here? Yeah. Pineapple. You guys like posture pineapple. But I hope this is helpful. And again, like your middle school, if you're teaching middle school, there's going to be more information on the page that is going to work. They can play it note for note. But if they're starting to get more advanced and you want to help them possibly do this beyond high school and into college, they do need to understand how to decipher. You don't play what's on the page. What's on your page is happening in the band, and it's your job to help that happen. That's the process. Okay, bye.
Thank you. Take a group picture of everyone in game.
For the jazz people who are in this room who are not normal